This is TradeFlow News, bringing you relevant news and insights from around the world. TradeFlow News, enabling trade for SMEs and economies worldwide.
These are some of the key topics that we will be looking into in today's program.
First, let's take a look at the overnight headlines which are impacting the commodity markets.
Top oil exporter Saudi Arabia's July crude oil exports gained for a second straight month to their highest in more than 2 years. Data from the Joint Organization Data Initiative, JODI, showed on Monday. Saudi Arabia's exports rose 2.5% to 7.38 million barrels per day, BPD, in July, highest since April 2020 from 7.20 million barrels of oil per day in June. The country had raised its July crude prices for Asian buyers to higher than expected levels amid concerns about tight supply and expectations of strong demand in summer. It had also raised its OSP for European and Mediterranean buyers, but kept U.S. differentials unchanged.
China's August gasoline exports rose 97.4% from a year earlier, customs data showed on Sunday, as refiners took advantage of fresh export quotas amid faltering domestic demand. Gasoline shipments were at 1.12 million tons last month, while volumes for the January to August period were 30.4% lower than the corresponding period last year, according to data from the General Administration of Customs. Diesel exports were at 830,000 tons, up 51.8% from August 2021, on healthy export margins. Exports for the January to August period totaled 3.25 million tons, down 78.3% on the same period last year.
Moving on to the top news in the energy sector.
Oil fell by more than 2% on Monday, pressured by expectations of weaker global demand and by US dollar strength ahead of possible large increases to interest rates, though supply worries limited the decline. Central banks around the world are certain to increase borrowing costs to tame high inflation this week, and there is some risk of a blowout 1 percentage point rise by the US Federal Reserve. The upcoming Fed meeting and the strong dollar are keeping a lid on prices, said Thomas Varga of oil broker PVM.
India's crude oil imports fell more than 13% in August month-on-month. Government data showed on Monday, as monsoon rains restricted activity and slowed consumption in the world's third biggest oil consumer. Crude oil imports last month fell to 17.55 million tons from July, data from the website of the Petroleum Planning and Analysis Cell showed. But, imports in August were up 0.9%, compared with the corresponding period last year. Demand for industrial fuel such as diesel typically dips during monsoons because of factors including less mobility, and a decline in consumption in the irrigation sector, said Prashant Vasisht, Vice President and Co-Head, Corporate Ratings at ICRA. Next, we have the top news in metal markets. China's aluminium imports in August dropped 19% from a year earlier, customs data showed on Sunday, reflecting lowered import appetite amid record high domestic production and tight overseas supply. The country brought in 200,440 tons of unwrought aluminium and products, including primary metal and unwrought, alloyed aluminium last month, according to data from the General Administration of Customs. The fall in imports came as supply jitters at home eased thanks to this year's production ramp-up as power restrictions that curtailed domestic production were relaxed. The power restrictions have also boosted demand for imported material.
Gold prices slipped on Monday, pressured by a firmer dollar as investors braced for aggressive interest rate hikes by the US Federal Reserve and other central banks this week in an effort to tame high inflation. Spot gold was down 0.8% at $1,661.65 an ounce at 0724 GMT. U.S. gold futures fell 0.8% to $1,670.80. Trading is expected to be light, with the bullion market in London, the world's biggest trade center for physical gold, closed for Queen Elizabeth's funeral. The dollar index gained 0.3%, with the stronger greenback making bullion more expensive for buyers with other currencies.
We will now look at the top news in the agricultural sector.
Malaysian palm oil futures reversed early gains to fall for a third straight session on Monday, as expectations of higher production in September outweighed strong demand. The benchmark palm oil contract for December delivery on the Bursa Malaysia Derivatives Exchange fell 82 ringgit, or 2.17%, to 3,701 ringgit, $813.76, a ton, after jumping more than 2% earlier in the session. Overhanging high stocks and negative margins in some destinations are keeping buyers away, a Kuala Lumpur-based trader said.
That is all for today's news on commodity markets. Stay tuned to TradeFlow News as we continue to provide you with more updates. We also invite you to follow us on Twitter at TradeFlow News, which allows you to watch our program on your mobile device or desktop to receive information from there.